it's scary, but it's fun. Thinking about like Halloween when you were that age, like what's fun, scary.
Fun, tingling, then
yeah,
and
terrorizing.
Yeah,
yeah,
and cold-blooded screams.
exactly.
Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast, where we focus on how authors found success, looking at strategies that have taken them to the top of the bestseller charts, as well as what they've learned from their mistakes. Because being an indie author is more than knowing the latest marketing trend. It's about being innovative and creative and learning from your mistakes.
Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sarah Rosette.
And I'm Jamie Albright. And this week on the show we have
Jessica Renwich.
Yes, we do. And it is so good. And also this week's show is sponsored by Xero. And we're going to tell you more about Xero, but you can get a 20% discount with the code Wish I'd Known Then 20. And so tell us about Jessica, Sarah.
Yeah, so Jessica I think this is our first middle grade author that we've had on. So she writes for kids ages 9 to 12. She's an indie author. And we talked about school visits, writing fantasy for that age group and horror for that age group, and marketing middle grade books and how that's different from marketing adult books. And if you're not interested in middle grade stuff, we also talked about perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and dealing with rejection.
Yeah.
And we covered all the bases on this one.
We can all identify with those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
So that's coming up. Yeah, we had a great time with her.
So what's been going on with you?
Well, I don't have a whole lot of writing updates because we've been out of town. We went on our trip. We went to the mountains. We went to Utah and Wyoming, and it was great. We basically walked around. We went to Park City, walked around the little town, shopped, ate, went and saw different things. The funnest thing we did was we went to Wyoming, and there's a place there. You know how most places you dig for fossils?
Yes.
This place had fossils, but they were in stone. They were in like this really soft limestone. And you signed up and you went out and there was just like limestone all over the ground. And they gave you a hammer and a little wedge thing and you cracked the rocks open. And some of them had fish fossils in there.
Oh my God.
I mean, they had all kinds of fossils like fish. It was like it had been like a lake. And so there was all this like animal life. Of course, fish were the most common and that was all we saw. But we got to take home what we found. And so we did that. It was a lot of fun. It was great fun.
Great.
Yeah, it was very cool. So that was our highlight of our trip. And,
did you get any snow?
It did sprinkle, snow flurries, but that was it. No accumulation. But it was cold when we were there. It was really cold.
Cool.
So I enjoyed it. So that was a nice break.
Yes.
Yeah. What about you? What have you been doing?
Fighting the weather.
Oh yeah, because you're doing swimming lessons, right?
Yeah, I don't have any writing updates. Well, this week has been crazy because I did swimming lessons, but my plan was to get up and do my 8:00 writing, I wasn't going to do it Monday because Monday was the first day of swimming and I've, kind of have a few things I need to take care of. And then, but then Tuesday morning we woke up here in Dallas with these tornado sirens going off and we had to get all of us, 8 people and a dog in the laundry room. And the kids were just freaking out. And we lost power. We didn't have power all day, no internet. The tree across the street went down. We had a big tree branch in the backyard go down. And I mean, this neighborhood got hit pretty hard. Actually, we had a couple of big trees that went down in the neighborhood. And so that happened Tuesday. Then Wednesday we woke up. I had fully intended, because we had the power back, fully intended to get on my 8:00 call, and we realized at 7:50 that my daughter's car had gotten stolen. So we were having to deal with that, and so I didn't write. And then on top of that, the weather has just been nuts. I've had to cancel 2 full days of swimming lessons because of bad weather, and I'm making up on today's Saturday. I'm making up today, But yeah, so no writing news, but we've been dealing with some crazy.
Well, I mean, this is like, it's an ebb and flow thing. Like sometimes you can get a lot of writing done, and sometimes you go on vacation, you don't get any done, and sometimes the weather just means that you're just not able to. So
Right, and car thieves. I mean,
one thing we hope this doesn't happen very often.
And she has 4 kids that are in car seats, and so there were 4 car seats in the car, and we were like, just bring back the car seat, keep the car, just bring back the car seat.
Amnesty for the car seats.
So it was nuts. It was so bad, but we're better. We're better. So
okay. Well,
other than that, that's all
you made it through all that.
Yeah, that's all I've got going on.
Okay. Well, maybe next week we'll have some actual writing news, but we do have a new supporter this week. We have Andrea Rowe, and she chose the maple leaf. So thanks to all our continuing supporters. We really appreciate it. And when you support the podcast, you get access to previous supporter episodes and the Slack group. And we're just so thankful for you all. Thank you.
Yep, we are. Thank you so much. And you and I both this coming Friday will be at InkersCon.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. We're doing a roundtable on what to put in your newsletter. Like everybody, that's always a big question because I've done a couple of newsletter talks. And that's one of the big questions. Well, what do I put in my newsletter? I don't know what to put in there. And we have some ideas. And so if you're doing roundtables at Inkers, come to ours. I think it's 10:35 on Friday.
Yeah, on Friday morning.
And if you're not, that's okay. Just come say hi anyway.
Yes.
And we're doing a listener breakfast on Saturday morning.
Right. Yeah. So the link for that is in the podcast or the conference app.
Yeah.
You can sign up, you can RSVP there, and the breakfast is going to be 7:30 on Saturday morning. And we're really looking forward to seeing everyone. Yeah. And if you're a supporter of the podcast, be sure and tell us so that we can say hello and get in touch with you at Inkers. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we love that. We love that. And we love Inkers so much, both of us. And I always just get so much out of it. And we both have affiliate codes for the digital conference, which is now available to sign up for. So we'll have those in the show notes, and we'll put them in the group and the Slack channel.
Yeah, and they record all the sessions. So like if you can't be there, you can still get access to those sessions, even if you didn't travel. And then I think they have extra bonus content.
I think they do too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So we'll have those links in the show notes. We have some mail that we got. We have a text link. People can text us now. And so we have some text. We're not going to read them all, but we love hearing from y'all. We ask about discovery writing, and we might just save those and talk about those like in a special episode about discovery writing. I think that might be a good way to get to those. Yeah.
It's great. I mean, it's been so fun to get those. Thank you so much.
So if you just want to send us a text and say hello, we love that. So thank you for that.
And we have a new sponsor, don't we?
Yes, we do. We have a sponsor for the podcast today. The corporate sponsor is Xero, accounting software made for small businesses like indie authors. With Xero, you have everything in one place. You can store documents, capture expenses and receipts via email, scan files from your mobile, and more. Via Xero's robust integrations, you can connect Xero to your bank to easily sync financial information, as well as have access to more than 1,000 apps via its app store. There are different plans to suit your business, and all pricing plans cover the accounting essentials with room to grow.
And you've used them.
Yeah, so I use them. I switched to Xero, and I really love it because it's so easy to use. It imports transactions automatically. It makes reconciling a breeze. There's an onboarding call, which was really helpful for me in getting everything set up. And it's just been a great accounting solution for me and my indie business. I appreciate it.
Great.
It's one of those things that's like, oh, it's made my life easier. Thank you. I appreciate it. So if you're interested in checking that out, you can use discount code Wish I'd Known Then 20 and get 20% off a Xero subscription for 3 months. And the link will be in the show notes.
That's right. So that was a lot. And
yes, it was a long
with the episode because Jessica was really interesting, and I think everybody's going to love it.
Yes. So here's Jessica. Today, we are really happy to talk with Jessica Renwick. Hi, Jessica. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
We're great. And we're so glad you're here. We're going to talk about writing middle grade, and we've never done that before. So we're excited.
Yeah, I'm
Different ways of
excited.
marketing. Yeah, it'll be lots of fun. Okay, so let me read your bio and then we'll get going. Jessica is an award-winning author of fantasy and horror for kids ages 9 to 12. She spends her days working at her local library and her evenings lost in her next book. She resides in Alberta, Canada with her loving partner, 2 fluffy dogs, a flock of chickens, and an enchanted garden. Okay, I need an enchanted garden.
Yeah, I'm super jealous.
Yeah, ours is pretty awesome. We have a chicken coop in the middle and then garden beds built all around it.
Ooh.
Oh, how beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. That the Texas sun where we're both from will choke that out faster than
Very hard to have a beautiful garden.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. Well, tell us how you got into writing.
Okay, so I have always since I was a kid loved books and reading. My parents are both big readers, so got us kids into it. And like for me, middle grade, that grades, 4 to 6. The books I read at that age were the ones that really stuck with me, and I still think about, and it still feels like they kind of, help me grow into who I am. So that's why I just love writing for that age. I think there's still so much magic in reading at that age. But it just, that's why I love that. When I was 13, I wrote my first novel. It was not that great, but it was about 3 friends who rescue a horse.
Yes.
And I printed off all it was over 100 pages. Printed it all off. My parents are troopers. They read it. They even helped me mail it to some publishers. Wow. So those were my first rejection letters. And even though, they were a rejection, whoever sent them was very kind. Because all of them said, we don't publish books written by authors under the age of 18, and but keep going, keep writing, keep trying. This is awesome that you're doing this. So even though it was a rejection, it still kind of lit a fire under me to keep writing.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, my granddaughter, she came and she said, "Coco, I wrote a book," and I was like, "Oh, let me see," and she handed me 2 pages. I was like, okay, this is great.
Keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
Encourage that.
I did.
Yeah, my nieces, I have nieces that the youngest is 10 and the oldest is 16. And there's 2 of them in particular who really like writing. And I try and help and encourage them. I bought them. There's a book called Go Teen Writers that totally explains like plotting and story structure and everything, basically just how to get started. And it's geared toward teens, and it's a great book. So I bought it for my 16-year-old niece, and she devoured it and has been writing her own stories. So I'm super proud of her.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it's Go Teen Writers?
Yep.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yep. And there's a second one that I can't remember the title. It's along the same lines, but it's about self-editing and revising.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, so I bought her the set for her birthday, and she's just been writing like crazy since then.
Well, my granddaughter's birthday's coming up, and
perfect.
Like in 2 weeks, and so I'm like, that's a good thing to do.
It was a good gift, yeah.
All right, I'll do that.
Yeah, so and after that, in my 20s, life kind of took over, and I didn't write as much. I still read voraciously, but I didn't write as much. And then when I hit my 30s, I just thought, it's now's the time. I feel ready to sit down and start writing again. So I started a bunch of different manuscripts that didn't finish, still even trying to just figure out what age group I wanted to write for, what genre. So it wasn't until I was, mid-30s until I got that first book ready. And it was The Book of Chaos, the first one in my Starfall series. And that one I published in 2018.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah. And I think that when you're writing for kids, which age group is very important, right? So how
Yeah.
did you settle on middle grade? You said you loved it. Those were formative for you.
Yeah, those years are so formative for me. And I think obviously having my nieces around that age was an influence. I've also used to work as an educational assistant, and I worked in a grade 5 classroom for a while, and I really liked working with kids that age. I led reading groups, that kind of thing. I really just feel so connected with stories for kids that age. It's, they're facing some different circumstances in the teens and the YA.
Right.
But it's such a formative year, not just for me, but for everyone. Like going through it, it could be those middle grade years can be kind of tough for kids. And I know for myself, I found so much solace in stories. So.
Yeah. Sounds like you really knew your audience.
Yeah. And now I'm a library assistant, and I work in the children's department a lot. So
That's
it's
perfect.
great.
Yeah. Well, what is your definition of success?
So for me, my definition of success, because I know it's different for everyone. For me, I am lucky. I have a day job that I love and I'm passionate about. So it's not so much financial for me as it is really connecting with readers, with those kids. I do a lot of school visits, and to me, that is just like the highlight of the whole part of being an author is speaking to those kids. I usually do like a PowerPoint presentation or a slideshow presentation, kind of comparing my writing process to what they're doing in school. And it really seems to click with a lot of kids. And I read to them out of my book, and just seeing, you always know those kids that are just so creative, and it just kind of clicks with them. Like they get so excited. They're asking all these questions about writing. I've had parents email me after thanking me for my presentation because it got their kid wanting to start writing. So like for me, being able to reach kids on that kind of level and inspire them is so rewarding. And yeah, just being able to get out there and talk to them.
I love that. I would like that too. I think that would be super fun.
It is. Yeah. It's great. Yeah.
Well, what do you wish you'd known about writing and craft when you started?
Oh, writing and craft when I started. So I am a perfectionist, and I was that writer that I would redo chapter 1.
Oh, a million times.
Yes, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, I go online and read all this advice about like what your first chapter should look like to hook readers in, and just like obsess over that. And just I was listening to podcasts by two, Becca Symes and Rachel Herron's podcast. They do the first draft, and just like letting go of that, because you can go back and fix it. And I really had to learn that, and it was a struggle. Like even after I knew that, it was still such a struggle for me. So that's why I never really allowed myself to finish anything, because I'm like, like the beginning isn't good enough yet. And even if I reach a midpoint, like it's not good enough yet, and then I kind of burn out.
Right.
But just allowing myself the freedom of like, if nobody has to read this, nobody's going to see it, you can go back and you can fix it later, was a big thing for me. And then when I started figuring out plotting and I read Save the Cat, I could get bogged down with plotting as well. So I kind of have to do a mix for myself of plotting, getting my roadmap out, but it's got to be flexible, and it's not super, super detailed, because I still have to kind of discover some things along the way. So that has been a years long process for me to figure.
Yeah, that's so hard. And in fact, I just gave myself that pep talk today while I was taking a shower. I was like, it does not, like, you're just telling yourself the story. It doesn't have to be perfect. Also, I started listening to a new book today, The 7-Year Slip, which has gotten like tons of great reviews. And I see why. I mean, like the first chapter is just so clean and crisp. And I'm listening to it going, mine is just a mess. And then I had to go, wait, like that's her finished product. I'm just starting,
Yeah,
like,
yours is not done.
but I was like, it just seems so crispy and clean, and like every word has meaning, and
Yes.
and mine don't, right?
Right. And I just
And
wish
it's so
that
hard.
I wish that could come out of me, like the first
Mhm.
draft, like,
Mhm.
oh, this wonderful prose, and
Yes,
it's all
yes.
cohesive and smooth.
Mhm.
No, it doesn't come out of me like that. I have to make it that way later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah. So it sounds like you were finding your process and over time, and that it just does take time, and we
It
still
really does.
struggle with
And
it.
listening to different people and how they do it, and
Mhm.
just kind of, after I discovered plotting, it took, I can't even remember who I was listening to, but it was a podcast, probably Becca's time, where it's like, it's okay to change the plot as you go. Like,
Yeah, you have permission.
It's okay. Yeah. And that was just like a light bulb for me. Like, well, yeah, of course it's okay. Why didn't I think that
Yeah.
before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
Well,
hard.
It is hard. Yeah. Well, what about marketing? What do you wish you had known about that?
I wish I had known how different middle grade is than adults.
Mm.
A lot of,
Mhm.
because I did so much reading, like in author groups and
Mhm.
books and about marketing yearbooks, and so much of it is geared toward adult genre fiction, which
Mhm.
is great. And some of it does work, but man, when you're writing for kids, you are not marketing to the child. Obviously, you want to write a book that is engaging for them and that they will love. But when it comes to marketing, you're marketing to parents, librarians, teachers, grandparents, aunts and uncles, people who are buying kids gifts. And it's very different. And a lot of it I find is about like the value your story can bring to a child.
Mhm.
And that's really important to most parents and librarians and teachers. Like,
Right.
why should you pick, say, if you're a teacher, why should you pick my book to read to your class?
Right. What is it? Yeah. What's the value that's going to get? Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, that's good. And we're going to talk about that more later. So
Yeah.
we can,
Yeah.
we can move on to the next question, which is, what assumptions did you make at the beginning of your writing career? And looking back, did they turn out to be right or wrong?
Oh, I mean, I had a lot of assumptions. Most of them were wrong. I really thought, the marketing advice would work for middle grade too. I know a lot of people, are saying like kids are on tablets more and more online, so reading ebooks and stuff like that. But I don't find that does not reflect in my sales at all. I sell like 95% paperback or hardcover. The rest is some ebook and some audio, but the vast majority of my sales are paperback or hardcover.
Right.
And I think I think a lot of parents want their kids reading, like off the screen time, right? They want them doing something else. And definitely for schools, they want to see those physical copies.
books. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a big assumption I had. So the marketing is very different. I also had that assumption. So because I came out in 2018, it was kind of in that time when paid marketing was just starting, like pay-per-click ads was just kind of starting to ramp up. And it still felt like there was a lot more organic reach. There's not. So for me, there's not near as much organic reach. So I have had to use AMS quite a bit, and like they do work for me. But that organic reach it doesn't seem to be what it used to be for sure. Just because there's so many more books now being published and stuff. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad you have something that does work.
Yeah, that works. I do have a newsletter. It is smaller than a lot of adult ones because kids age out of middle grade.
Yeah.
So it's tougher to get people to sign up. I have a lot of teachers and librarians online.
That's good.
Which is great. But that does do well, and I get replies that are really nice, and so I enjoy that a lot. And I do have Instagram. it's fun. I find I connect more with other writers than I do readers, but I have also had parents message me on there. So, it works, but not to the extent as it would for adult books. More for me is the AMS ads, but also doing school visits and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. Well, what's the most important lesson you've learned?
the most important lesson I've learned, I have some notes here. Perseverance.
Yes.
And just like dealing with rejection. Because even if you're indie publishing, you're going to get some bad reviews. And you just have to know your book isn't for everyone. I know so many writers go into it with the attitude that, my middle grade book should be for everyone. Parents should enjoy it too. Everyone likes it, but it's fantasy, it's my writing style. It's so even, not everyone's going to love it, and that's okay. You will find your readers that will, and if you get a bad review, it's not the end of the world. Just keep going. If anything, it makes your book look even more, legitimate. That's not just your friend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that and persevering, through all that. There's going to be tougher months, where sales aren't great, but that doesn't mean it's the end of your career. Like, keep going, and things will eventually come around.
Yeah.
It is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
So true. Jamie's least favorite saying.
To coin a phrase. Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Well, what's the biggest change you've had to make in your thinking?
Biggest change I've had to make in my thinking is I still deal with it, but imposter syndrome is, which a lot of us deal with, I know, and it can be debilitating sometimes.
Yeah.
And especially I think with children's books, because the vast majority of them are trad published. And now I am going hybrid. I did get a deal with a trad publisher for my next book, but I'm still
congratulations.
intending. Yeah. Thank you. I am still intending to indie publish as well. My Starfall series still has another book that needs to come out, and I have an idea for another series. I'm pretty sure I want to have indie, but the imposter syndrome part at the beginning with reaching out to schools and libraries was really tough for me. Some of them did, want to know who my publisher was and said, sorry, we won't, we don't deal with self-published authors. But some of them were great. And I've had a ton that didn't even ask. They just were like, this is awesome. A local author, come in. So it's just kind of working through like that kind of mindset shift,
right.
You're not good enough, but then you go do a school visit and talk to kids who have read the book and they love it so much and have all these questions. And it's like, well, they love it.
So if the kids love it, then you're obviously doing something right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Correct.
So, and I just think there's so many awesome indie authors out there that deal with kind of the same feelings, and it's just the way the industry is. It's tough to get trad published, and sometimes in certain genres, being indie can actually be better for your career too.
Right.
So, it's not a lesser option.
Very true. Yeah,
it is very true. Yeah. That's a hard one. I mean, that's just hard for everybody. And I know there are people that will think, well, I know authors that don't struggle with that. And I call BS because I really feel like everybody struggles with it. Some of us just talk about it more than others.
Yeah.
I think
maybe
so.
not.
Yeah,
maybe not every day, but I think we all feel that.
Yeah. And it was definitely something I had to deal with. Getting a few, in Alberta, we actually have a really great, it's called the Young Alberta Book Society, and they organize author visits to schools. And I tried to get in with them, but you have to be published through a traditional publisher to get in with them. And they were actually very kind about it. It's because they have some government funding, and the government rules around that are that they have to be traditionally published authors. So, but that was kind of like, do they not think I'm good enough to go to school?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah.
So I really had to work on my mindset around that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a different type of rejection. If you're
Yeah.
like an indie author, we can, apply for a book club or whatever, like that, if you're writing adult books. But if you're applying to schools, I feel like that's like a more personal, you might take it more personally. Whereas like book club, you can kind of go, oh, well,
Yeah.
even the biggest authors.
They don't take anybody. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's so hard to get in front. I did get. I've had a couple book clubs with.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Chaos, but the first time it took me like 18 tries.
Persistence.
Yeah,
That's right.
perseverance. Keep trying.
Yeah.
Well,
if you.
go ahead.
Sorry. Is it me or you?
I don't know. You go ahead. You ask this one.
Okay. Well, if you were starting over today, would you do anything differently?
I have some notes about that because yes, I would. What did I have here? I would have a better organized launch because that is one thing with the kids book. I kind of did a fully online type of launch, and that it's just really tough to do that with kids books.
Yep.
So and I know it's intimidating when you're an indie author, but I promise there are bookstores out there that you just have to talk to a few that will support you. But just getting some bookstore signings set up and some school visits and that kind of thing, because I started doing that with the later books and it really made such a bigger impact than only doing like an online launch. So that is definitely something I would do differently. And it does take some bravery to do that with a debut book, especially when you're an indie, but you'd be surprised. There's a lot of really supportive people in the book world that would welcome you. So yeah,
that's encouraging for I'm sure to hear for a lot of people. So not just middle grade writers, but like I don't go to bookstores. I don't do that. Sarah does, but I don't.
Yeah,
it's just a little bit intimidating for me.
It is intimidating because some of them will say no, but for the ones that say yes, it's kind of like finding your people, finding your squad, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah. Well, what do you wish you'd known? We're going to get into specific questions about middle grade stuff, but what do you wish you'd known about writing middle grade? Like, are there tropes? Are there things you need? Like, who is the audience, and how do you write to that audience, kind of thing?
Okay, so I took a master class from R.L. Stein.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, which was so good because when you go into writing middle grade, you need to do some research on how to write for kids, and I definitely had to in editing change a few things. A lot of it, when it comes to like the horror, mine aren't too horrific, but they're ghost stories. But it's like really finding that balance between writing soft scary for middle grade, like spooky more, and scary for teens. So you like no gore, no injuries to the main characters, no like death to the main characters or the loved ones kind of thing. The monsters, again, like kind of dialed down, like, you're not going to have, terrible descriptions kind of these monsters. So you want to make it's scary, but it's fun. Like thinking about like Halloween when you were that age, like what's fun, scary. So
more spine tingling than
than terrorizing.
Yeah.
And cold-blooded screams. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a lot of balance there, and then just being relatable to that age group, and the things that they're dealing with. Like in my upcoming book, my main character, her dad had passed away a year before, and her mom was making a new friend who's a man who she's not so sure about, and so she's kind of dealing with that kind of stuff. That's something that kids in real life deal with. And so having the story be a bit bigger than just the spooky event, but having that kind of stuff just to make things relatable for kids and kind of the heart of the story. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So you've talked about horror, but then like writing fantasy for middle grade, is there like specific things that you would recommend for if someone's interested in doing that? As far as how to approach the stories?
So what I have found people like about my fantasy books is they're like more whimsical, and fun, of course, like kids need fun and action, lots of action and adventure. And they really I get a lot of feedback on my magical creatures. I have different magical creatures in all the books. It's funny. I have a magical chicken, of course, because I have chickens and I love them. So, and she's a fire breathing chicken who lays golden eggs. And that is all the kids talk about her. Like she is their favorite. When I ask who favorite character is, it's Star, the magical chicken. And they always ask, is she coming back? Is she coming back in the next book? It's like, yeah.
You bet she is.
Yeah, of course she is. That's how I keep you guys reading.
That's great.
Yeah.
That
so
is
anything like kind of whimsical or different like that, like the kids just love it so much.
And remembering they're still little kids. Like even though like my niece and nephew my niece and nephew are both in 6th grade. And, I'm like, I listen to them and I'm thinking, gosh, you know too much. Like you just know too much. It's too much because of online stuff and everything. But at the heart, if you leave them alone long enough or take their devices away, they'll go outside and play, and they're playing like kids. And so just remembering that, I would think it's important.
Yeah, bringing that sense of just fun and whimsy and, not worrying about stuff that adults should be worrying about.
Yeah, exactly.
Getting into this like fun world. And I know like for me with my characters' friendships, I really do a lot of focus on strong friendships and, try and keep the drama away. Like I don't, like kind of like the mean girl drama, that kind of stuff. I try and kind of keep that stuff out of my books. Just because I really like to focus on strong relationships in my book. So, and I find kids react well to that. Like they like that. So they really like my characters.
That's great.
Love it. I wish I had somebody that age in my life right now, because it makes me think when my kids were little and the fun we had, with books like that. So that's awesome.
I mean, I'm just thinking Murphy would love these books. Well, I don't know about the horror ones, but she would love that's my granddaughter. She would love the fantasy books. Yeah.
The Starfall ones. Yeah. They're fun.
Well, talk to us a little bit more about school visits in case somebody is listening and they're interested. Like, how do you approach the schools? And like, is there a better time to do it during the school year?
Or before the school year or whatever.
Details.
Yeah.
Okay. So for timing, I find most schools are really more open to school visits like that in the fall and in the spring leading into summer. Definitely not around any holidays. They're very busy. And so I did like a media package, kind of like a page with all the information about me, where I'm from, the awards that I've won, all my books, the synopsis of like the main storyline of the series, and then I have all the covers on it. And so all that information, and most of them are pretty happy I have that, because I think they get approached by a lot of people that don't. So I will send them that and just kind of like my little pitch, my prices, what exactly my presentation is about. Because like a lot of them want to know, it's not just, hey, I want to come present my books. It's what value are you bringing to this presentation? What are you talking about?
Right.
And I've actually found a lot of my contacts. I did a few markets with my books, which were a lot of fun. And a lot of teachers approached me and took my card. So I got some that way, and I've gotten some through word of mouth from parents. And then I need to add this back on my website. I took it down for a bit, but it's going back up. I have a page about my school visits on my website too. So, and that teachers can contact me that way. And I also make sure to put about virtual visits on there, because I have done a few virtual visits. That was one kind of good thing that came out of COVID, was I got to do virtual visit with a school in LA. I've done a few with some schools in BC. So being able to reach a wider demographic through virtual school visits is great too.
Yeah. Because you do it mostly locally, is that?
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah. My in-person ones have all been kind of in central Alberta.
Nice.
I would like to expand further, but for now that's been.
So now, when you go, do you sell books, or do you have an order form, or?
So when I do my school visits, it depends on the school. I ask them, of course. So sometimes they order the books into their library.
Oh, okay.
Or if they're open to me having order forms, I will ask ahead of time and send them an order form like a month before I come visit, and then get it back in time that I can order some books and have them ready to bring.
Oh, that's
so that's one thing you can include in your pitch package as well. But some schools don't want to do that, and that's fine too, because they usually will order them into their library, or even after it, I will notice a little uptick in sales that the parents have gone on and looked for it.
So do they, like, how do the parents know about it? Do kids just talk about it, or do you have a handout for them or something that talks about your books?
I have bookmarks. I give out each kid a bookmark, and it has my website on it. And then, it's usually one of the books. So, and the kids love that. It's such a treat for them to like get a little take home.
Isn't that funny? They love junk. I mean, not the sugar. Not the sugar.
No, I know what you meant.
Swag.
Who let me have a podcast is all I want to know. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I did not mean that, but you know what I mean. Like little things that don't have a place necessarily. Yeah,
exactly.
So circling back to something else, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned you on your website and when you contacted schools, you mentioned your awards. So is that important? Would you say that's important
I
if
wonder
you're for
about
middle
that.
grade author?
So for me, because I know the conventional advice is that they don't matter for adult genres, and I think that's probably true. Like I read so many books, and I don't care if they have an award or not.
Yeah.
But I have found that having a couple did help with getting into schools for sure. And I had one book signing at so we have chapters here, which is basically the same as Barnes and Noble. And I had a book signing at one of my local ones, and one of the parents approached me, and he had the review from the book awards, the children's literary reviews, on his phone. And he's just like, I just read the review from your award, and that sold me. I want to get my daughter. So I do find that it can make a difference, for sure. Just, it's always just find ones that are good. I know I really like the reader's favorite. It seems to be pretty well regarded. And I had children's literary review, but they don't seem to be doing it anymore, which is too bad, because a lot of people like that one.
So just do some research on where would be good for your books.
I mean, I hate to say this, because this is worse than the junk comment, but but it's the legitimacy. Like I think when we are going outside of our indie sphere, especially in lower middle grade or whatever, it does add a level of legitimacy to get your foot in the door than not having one.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I I only did it with the first book. The rest of the book in the
I wouldn't, yeah, I agree. I mean, you only need one, really,
Yeah.
Well, it's very similar to like my strategy with my historicals was like, I'm going to get reviews from like any like more traditional media that I could, where like Library Journal, or I didn't get that, but like you try and find like Readsy, which has, know, reviewers that are vetted and not just reader reviews. So it's kind of the same thing. And it helps with, I think, especially first book. You can do it on the first one, and then you don't have to continue to do it,
Yeah, like you have there's 5 books in my Starfall series so far, and every book doesn't need something.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about an email list, your newsletter kind of thing. Like, how do you go about building an email list and then advertising? We can talk about that too, but you talked about AMS ads, but let's talk about your email list specifically right now. How do you go about building one?
Okay, so similar
middle grade, yes,
similar to the adult genres, I do put links in the back of all my books. Obviously in the paperbacks, it's not like a clickable link, but I mention it in all of them. Right. And I do have a free short story that people can get. It was a part of an anthology that was published in 2020. It's The Witch's Staff, and the anthology was called Mythical Girls, and it was about girls that find mythical objects and how it changes them in the world around them. So it's a great anthology. But after a year, we got the rights to our stories back. So I got a nice little cover done for it, and have that up as like a freebie. It is just an ebook. But so I have that I advertise. By advertise, I mean I put it in the back of my books and on social media and that kind of thing. And then I also had, when I did those markets, I had a sign up sheet that people could leave their like physically write their emails on, and that's how a few teachers have gotten on my list that way. And anytime I do the school visits, I talk about the free book, I talk about the mailing list, and the teachers usually do sign up for it. And I do notice a few other people seem to sign up after I do a school visit. So kids are obviously telling their parents, Yeah, so that's how I get the word out for the most part about that.
So I had a question earlier when you were talking about teachers and stuff. Do you keep 2 separate? Like, do you keep adults on one list and or teachers and professionals or bookstore people and kids on another, or do you put them all together?
Everything's all together. I don't think I really have kids on there. I guess I'm not sure.
I guess that's right.
Parents would be.
Parents, yeah.
It's usually the parents. Like when I get replies to it, it's always from an adult. So, But I do keep, the mailing list super, super clean, super, kid friendly. So,
And so then how do you find these readers? I mean, I think that every middle grade author I've ever talked to, that is, and we've talked about it earlier, but that is their big thing. How do I find them? How do I advertise them? How do I get my books in front of these people?
It's hard. It is hard. So a few things that I've done to get my books into libraries, for example, is I have sent that media sheet to lots of different libraries, and some will order, some won't, but it's worth it because you do get orders for sure. And so that's helpful. And don't be afraid to even email libraries from far away. Like I have my books in some libraries in the USA too, like even and the UK as well. So don't be afraid. There's so many libraries, and they're always looking for kids books. Like kids. Some of those kids are just voracious readers. So don't be afraid to send those emails out. I know it kind of feels like cold calling, which it is, but libraries also, they're looking for books. So one thing on your sheet, make sure you put where they can order it from. So if you're you want your book up within Grimspark in addition to Amazon, because that's where all your library orders are going to come from. They usually won't order from Amazon. So, so that's one thing. And then I also run AMS ads. It, it costs money, but I profit off them. I think they weren't really worth doing for me. I tried them a bit when I just had the first book out, didn't really work out well, profit wise. But once I had 3 in the series, I saw a big uptick and selling more of the first book as well. I know in the trad world, it kind of feels like the big push is on the launch in the first year and getting all your sales, right away. But I find with having a series for kids book, it's great because every year I've sold more of that first book, even then, like it's just kept building. Right. So, and I find the ads have helped a lot with that. My ads are really targeted to books that I know that are good match, that are good comp. Yeah. I'm not just throwing spaghetti at the wall. It's very targeted. So,
right.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. I was wondering how, like, because you're marketing more to teachers and parents, right? So how do you write your copy or I know Amazon ads don't really have copy, but if you're trying to persuade adults, how do you frame your pitch?
Yeah. Well, I do a blurb just like any other blurb, but I do try and include a few lines about friendship, or or I'll include like a little review about someone saying great themes in this book. And my one coming out this fall, I have a line in there about at the end of my blurb just saying that Hope has to face someone from her past who deeply hurt her, and so it's kind of like, to make matters worse, someone from her past comes back who deeply hurt her, and she will have to learn to I think I put to trust and forgive. And so can she learn to trust and forgive, or will she fail? I think it's like, will she fail and let the monster destroy the city or cause the destruction of Vancouver? I think is what. But kind of incorporating it that way, and still it's still part. You're still saying what's in the story, but you're kind of including those
themes.
The themes. It sounds like that's what a good way to let them know that it's not just a cute little story.
That's what you're selling. You're selling the theme base. When like for adult books, you're selling the trope. But I would think for middle grade and the 9 to 12, you're selling that theme because you're selling it to the parent.
Absolutely. And it's still important to include those tropes because they know what their kids like.
Exactly.
Fable, it's very clear. It's a magical story. She's got magic. There's magical creatures.
Right.
She's, on a quest to save her cousin. She's making new friends. So that's.
But I can see how, like, as a parent, if you've got a choice of all these books and you have one they're all like magic and have magical creatures, but you have one that has, this is about a girl. I have a daughter and she develops strong friendship. She might be like, this one sounds better. It sounds like there's more there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Do you do book fairs?
I don't. I would like to.
Okay. Okay, you heard it first here. If you know any book fairs, let Jessica know.
Sign me up.
Exactly.
We do have a writers conference in Calgary. Well, it's a writers and readers conference in Calgary, and I do that and have books there. But it's not as big as like a book fair.
Yeah. Okay. And then how often do you publish?
So the nice thing about middle grade is I feel that readers are more patient because they're used to traditional. I was trying to publish faster, but I find like it's just with having a job still, it was just like a lot. So 1 to 2 books a year about on average is what I've been doing. But 1 to 2.
And how long are they?
So they have grown.
The farther you get into the series, they get longer and longer.
The first book in Starfell, The Book of Chaos, was 47,000 words. The 5th book, the last one was published, was over 80,000 words.
Okay.
They're growing. My book coming out in the fall is the start of a new series, and that one is 65,000.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's good. I think that, sort of teaches them to read, that they can read longer books because, okay, so I wasn't a reader in school. I didn't read my first full book until I was 30 years old, like even in college, Cliff Notes, and I listened really good. But I had some trouble reading, and to see a big book like that was overwhelming. Like it was very intimidating to me. But if you open it and you start reading and you see it's something you can read, like on your level and maybe a little bit above, but that's a different story, and it gives you confidence in reading and reading stories that big. And so I think it's great. I think it's great. As you were talking about, I was like, I wish I was a reader during middle school because
I had been helpful.
I could have maybe learned some lessons during that time. Yeah. So that would have been good.
Well, I like to think, the first book is smaller and not so intimidating. So kids might be more inclined to pick it up.
Right.
And then maybe that would give them the confidence to tackle the bigger books because I get read through. So they are.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. Well, this has been so good and
it's
so
been
interesting.
So fun. Yeah.
Well, so we always like to ask everybody, what's the best thing you've done to set yourself up for success?
Oh, okay. So there's 2 things I feel that I did.
Great.
The first one is that with my first book, The Book of Chaos, I did invest in a good editor, developmentally and copy editing too. And that helped me so much. I feel like it just leveled up my writing from then on. Like I learned so much more than just by reading books about structure and, so having like someone working on my work and showing me, how to make it better, how to make it stronger. It changed my entire writing life. So, that was very, very good. And then also, writing, like finding, like networking, finding author friends, kind of that author community. I have, 3 other authors who, I talk to. We have a Slack and we talk, like just chat back and forth on there daily about stuff. And then we also, get together on Zoom, once a month and have a big chat about everything. And we've done that for years. And it's so helpful, A, for the support, and B, just for like bouncing ideas off each other. We'll beta read for each other. We'll, if we're buying a cover, we'll like throw up what was sent to us and say, what do you think of this? What can we change? So just having that, I guess it's like a team behind you. It's really helpful. And they helped me we have helped each other through imposter syndrome a lot too. So everyone understands, right? So
absolutely. Well, tell everybody where they can find out more about you and your books.
All right. So
I know they're wanting to know.
Yeah. You can find my website is jessicarenwickauthor.com, and all my books are on there. You can get the free story on there. And my upcoming books, I'll have upcoming events on there. This fall, I'll be doing a few different book launch events at bookshops. So once I have the dates for those, they'll be posted on there. And then I'm also fairly active on Instagram at Jessica Renwick Author. I have Facebook. I'm not as great at updating there, but I try. So
very good.
Great. Yeah. That is great. Well, we will have all those links in the show notes, and those will be at wishidknownforwriters.com. And if you want to support the podcast, you can go to that same link /support. And thanks to Alexa Larberg for editing and producing the podcast, and Adriel for doing the admin. So we'll see everybody next week.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. And remember our sponsor, Zero Accounting Software. Use discount code WishI'dKnownThen20 and get 20% off of Xero subscription services for 3 months. Thanks for listening. Keep writing, and we'll talk to you guys next week.